3i Atlas. We're going to look at some actual images. We're going to look at the latest footage, and we're going to figure out potentially what's really going on. Now, there's a lot of disinformation out there. There's a lot of people that are coming up with some incredible theories about 3i Atlas. And I got to say, we don't know yet what it is. Is it an alien spacecraft? Maybe, probably not. Is it an interstellar object? Well, that much we do know. But, you know, let's look into this a little bit further, and let's look at the latest footage, and let's debunk some of the conspiracies out there. I've been reading through the comments on some of these videos, and some people aren't even watching the videos. They're just leaving comments, and it's pretty ridiculous. But hey, you know, welcome to Earth, right? We all have a right to have our own opinion, and hopefully you're taking that opinion and you're helping people with your opinions and looking for the truth and looking to help others, because here at Leak Project, we're going to be the change we want to see. And I hope you will too. So let's get into this. There's some recent papers that just came out about the possibility of 3i Atlas being a spacecraft. As you can see right here, IFL Science SETI paper responds to claims interstellar object 3i Atlas might be an alien spacecraft. Interesting. This is the paper right here. We're going to look at that. We're also going to look at the latest video footage that is available. This is the most recent video footage available. I actually have this zoomed in. We're going to look at it in a minute. It's a lot closer. It's a lot more zoomed in, so you get a better visual of the object. And there's something I wanted to talk to you about before we get into that, though. So this object right here that shows this long streak of 3i Atlas, and you know, they're making their rounds. These images are making their rounds. Well, it's because of the camera and because of the way that it took the image. It doesn't really look like that if you were to get a high resolution photo. So we're going to get into that in a minute. Lots and lots to talk about. I did want to give a huge shout out to boomerboost.com. They should call this genx.com. This stuff is freaking amazing. Boomer Boost is a good name too, but I'm Gen X. So anyway, I love this stuff. I take it every single day with the Gladiator barley. I've got 3 more jars upstairs. And even though they're a sponsor, I still pay for this stuff just like anybody else would that buys it. It's got all these awesome vitamins and nutrients in it. But just to kind of put into perspective, these are my numbers. These are my cycling numbers for the past week. And I got to get a new screen for my screen protector. But you can see I've got 145 miles in this week on my bike. And this is all high elevation, you know, around 6,500 to 8,000 feet elevation, 145 miles this week. My numbers are, you know, pretty decent for a Gen Xer. So anyway, I think that the Boomer Boost is amazing for me personally for the recovery time. And if you use the code REX20, you'll get 20% off your order. You can go to boomerboost.com. Just look at the Gladiator Barley Boomer Boost specials. Use the code REX20, get the 20% discount. You'll thank me later. Take the 30-day challenge. Halo. All right, so let's get into this, shall we? Thank you for listening to my quick shameless plug. Hair plugs? Maybe next. All right, so this image right here, this was from NASA's Perseverance Mars rover. And it catches something unusual streaking across the sky Saturday, October 4th. The right navigation camera captured an image of a streak of light in the sky above Mars. The date of the image coincides with the interstellar comet 3i Atlas, which was set to make its closest approach past the red planet. And that's according to the European Space Agency. So let's go to the European Space Agency and let's look at the video footage that they're going to share with us. This is the video footage. I'm going to show it to you zoomed in a minute. When you look at it zoomed in, it looks super bizarre. But I think that's because of the pixelation and the resolution of the videography. So the ExoMars TGO captured the series of images shown in the GIF below with its color and stereo surface imaging systems, which is the CASSIS. Comet 3i Atlas is the slightly fuzzy white dot moving downward near the center of the image. The dot is at the center of the comet, compromising its icy, rocky nucleus and its surrounding coma. So let's look at this zoomed in. When we check it out zoomed in, it looks way different. Let me pull this up right now for you. Move this, new screen. All right. right here. Here we go. Check this out. Now, let me give you a little more details on this. The CASSIS could not distinguish the nucleus from the coma because 3i Atlas was too far away. Imaging this kilometer-wide nucleus would have been as impossible as seeing a mobile phone on the moon from Earth. But the coma, measuring a few thousand kilometers across, is clearly visible. The coma is created as 3i Atlas approaches the sun. The sun's heat and radiation is bringing the comet to life, causing it to release gas and dust, which collects as this halo surrounding the nucleus. The full size of the coma could not be measured by CASSIS because the brightness of the dust decreases quickly with distance from the nucleus. This means that the coma fades into the noise in the image. Typically, material from the coma is swept into a long tail, which can grow up to millions of kilometers long. As the comet moves closer to the Earth, the tail is much dimmer than the coma. We can't see the tail in the CASSIS images, but it may become more visible in future observations as the comet continues to heat up and release more ice. Nick Thomas, principal investigator of the CASSIS camera, explains this was a very challenging observation for the instrument. The comet is around 10,000 to 100,000 times fainter than our usual target. Now, I've heard people say this thing looks like a cross, twirling and swirling around in space. And the image that we're looking at, it might look like that, but I'm willing to, if there were odds in Vegas that we could bet on this. And, once we see higher resolution imaging, I really doubt it's going to be a giant cross rotating through space, but it looks pretty cool. Now, most likely what we are observing is some potentially like outgassing from this comet. I don't know. I'm going to say everything's bullshit until proven otherwise. So I'm skeptical, but I've got an open mind. And I've had guests on the show that, share very compelling data to suggest that it is an artificial satellite or something that's controlled by intelligence itself. And so we're just going to look at the latest images, the latest data, and we're going to see if we can figure it out. But it is very, very, very interesting. Now, I've heard people say that it could be a multitude of objects. It could be up to 7 objects behind it. I haven't found any data that I would use to confirm that, but it's a very interesting theory, and it very well could be. So let's see what else we got here. Okay, yeah. I want to show you this. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this for a minute, and we're going to look at some new data. We're going to look at some new information here. Okay. So this is from Simon Shumu or Schmau. I think Perseverance may have spotted interstellar comet 3i Atlas. He shows the location and the image here. Now, when we look at this image, let's take a look at it. So notice that all of the objects in the sky look like rods. And that's because of the way that the camera took the image. They're not all sphere shaped. It pictured that because of the way that it had to take the shot. So let me see if I can give you more information on that. Okay, here we go. The cylinder or rod-shaped appearance of interstellar comet 3i Atlas in some images is a photographic artifact caused by the camera's long exposure time, not the object's actual shape. This visual distortion occurred in images captured by NASA's Perseverance rover on Mars in early October, just a few days ago, and led to a lot of social media speculation. Why the image appears rod-shaped. Long exposure. To capture faint moving objects like a comet, cameras must use long exposure times. The Perseverance rover took hundreds of individual exposures over a 10-minute period and stacked them into a single image. During the long integration time, Comet 3i Atlas moved across the Martian sky. Comet's apparent motion relative to the rover's camera during the long exposure caused the final image to show the bright object as a streak or cylindrical stripe, rather than the circular spot it would have appeared in as a single short snapshot. Now, the comet's actual shape, Hubble images show a coma and nucleus. Other spacecraft, including the Hubble Space Telescope, have captured clearer images of 3I Atlas that show its true form. A Hubble image from July reveals a teardrop-shaped coma, the cloud of dust and gas surrounding the nucleus, which is typical for a comet. The actual solid nucleus at the comet's center is a fraction of the size seen in the Perseverance image, measuring less than 5.6 kilometers in diameter. Well, that is still huge. That's massive. I mean, that's like the size of Manhattan, they say, right? So there's an object floating through space at over 100, or flying through space at over 130,000 miles an hour, has a very bizarre orbit, extremely close to Mars in terms of space. It's going to make a close approach to Jupiter. And when Professor Loeb is saying he's given it a 30-40% chance it is not a natural comet, I think that's pretty profound. Now, obviously, Professor Loeb has been in the forefront of these incredible claims of the potential for these objects to be, these interstellar objects like Borisov and Oumuamua, to be potentially alien craft or some type of probes. And he also says, hey, you know, these are exercises. These are like live action role plays, like what if, basically, in different words. But it is very interesting and very compelling. But let's take a look at some of the, let's debunk some of the wilder conspiracies out there that we can easily debunk. So that's the cool thing about what we do here at Leak Project. We're going to look at all the data, and we're going to use the best information we can to come up with the answer. And you might have a different opinion, and you might have a different answer, and that's totally cool. I respect that. We're human beings. We're supposed to have different opinions, but we're not creating fear here, and we're not going to follow the wildest rabbit holes unless there's data to suggest that. And if there's data to suggest that, awesome. Let's look into it. But this image right here, a viral telescope image, claims to show unusual structures in 3I Atlas on its Mars flyby day. We analyzed the evidence, and the reality is far less mysterious than social media suggests. This is i3atlas.com. So the viral image that broke the internet. Now, this was a few days ago, but the image captured by YouTuber Dobsonian Power using a solar telescope and heavily processed with digital enhancement shows what appears to be an unusual dark structure within 3I Atlas. Within hours, the speculation exploded: alien spacecraft, technological components, structural anomalies, then a ton of AI-generated images. There's all sorts of AI stuff out there right now on this, of sleek metallic probes. But this is the image from Dobsonian Power. You can see it right here. Then it goes on to say, here's the problem. This viral moment is a perfect example of how the wrong equipment, image processing artifacts, and timing can create a mystery where none exists. Well, this is still a very mysterious object, and we don't need images to tell us that. There's plenty of data to suggest, like the CO2, the amount of CO2, the amount of nickel, the way that it's, there, all sorts of stuff is weird about this object, but it doesn't mean it's an alien spacecraft. So Dobsonian telescopes, while excellent for certain types of astronomy, are not designed for capturing detailed images of faint, distant comets. Solar telescopes specifically are optimized for observing the sun's surface, not deep space objects traveling at interstellar velocities. And that's true. I've got an 8-inch dual mount Meade telescope that, when I put the solar filter on it, you can look at the sun. It's, you know, this perfect circle, and you can see some of the solar flares and etc. But it has a completely different look to it because of the filtering system. So 3I Atlas, like let's take a look at the images that we have here of 3I Atlas. This was from July 21st. Different filter system. This is from the debrief. This was the amateur astronomer using the Dobsonian telescope right there on the left. The most recent, pull this up here real quick. Yeah, it's like on the last. Okay. Here we go. This is the most recent image that is not artificial intelligence rendered or made up. This is from the observatory in Chile, taken remotely at Rio Hurtado. And you can see it's like an egg shape. And it does have some very bizarre characteristics. But when we look at this image, and try to decode it, it's not going to work. You're going to create a bunch of rabbit holes and conspiracies that don't exist, and now they're in the ether, in the internet ether. And we all know everything's real on the internet, right? Saying that sarcastically. But you can see all the other objects in the sky are streaked like a rod as well. So we can't take this image and give it any validation, in my opinion. And there's people out there that disagree with me, and I respect that. Hey, let's talk about it. Let's have a healthy discussion about this, and let's get to the truth. But that is not actual image or realistic image of the object. So you can see right here. Looks like a Tic Tac. Now, this paper right here, The Natural Origins of 3I Atlas, why 3I Atlas is not an alien probe. Let's take a look at it. A number of scientists have talked about the interstellar object, 3I Atlas, since it was found earlier this year. This is mostly because Dr. Avi Loeb thinks the object could be an alien probe because of its size, path, and chemical ambiguity. This work looks closely at Loeb's claims and gives a fresh astrogeological reason for them. Another group of scientists found that the lithified clastic fragment known as 3I Atlas came from a sedimentary basin on an exoplanet that could once host life. I have utilized a combination of observational data and astrogeological reasoning to argue that its properties, like its size, about 7 miles long, wow, that's pretty incredible. Compact coma and spectral slope are similar to those of stratified, diagnetically changed siliciclastic strata. Could these layers be similar to Earth? It explains the features of 3I Atlas in a way that makes sense and goes against the ideas that a random alien come to visit in such a way proposed by Dr. Loeb. High-resolution spectroscopic mineralogical and isotopic studies in the future could certainly confirm the new hypothesis proposed by the author and help us learn more about the geology of exoplanets as a whole. There you go. Not as exciting, but do you know what is exciting about what I just read? How it potentially came from a planet that hosted life similar to Earth. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. And I don't think that they can confirm that they can't confirm 100% it's just a space rock right now either. So that this is speculation, but they're using the scientific method. And, Professor Loeb does a pretty good job looking at it from an alternative view without saying for sure it's an alien craft. He's given his theories and ideas, but it's also in a way where it's like, let's create discussion. Let's create the thought in the mainstream media and with the people for the potential what if. And I've read some declassified files that have came out from military sources describing how there was this shift several years ago and funding put into different streams of for example, professors and different people that could be in the media describing these possibilities, talking about these possibilities to make it more of a mainstream discussion. Instead of completely denying the possibility that extraterrestrials exist and highly advanced civilizations exist in the universe and they could potentially visit us someday, which it's been that way for so long. How many people have been looked at as tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorists or goofballs and there's many other words I could think of, because we believe we're not the only ones in the universe. Like, I think it's kind of narcissistic to think that we are the only ones in the universe. The universe is a pretty big place. I mean, come on. And how long has the universe actually been here? So there's a very strong possibility that we're not the only ones in the universe. We've probably been visited in the past. I personally think that Mars was inhabited thousands of years ago. I think it still is, but not to where it was before it got obliterated by the tail of Venus, most likely. But that's a whole other podcast. So is it a spacecraft? Maybe. Is it an interstellar object? Well, that we do know. But let's take a look at some more of the video footage here. I want to pull this up. We're going to look at the zoomed in footage and then just kind of watch this again for a minute. So check out. I've heard everything from a TIE fighter to a rotating cross. It could just be some weird outgassing. So bizarre. Very, very odd, whatever it is. It's pretty dang cool. I mean, I think it's pretty remarkable. Sub-Zero says statistically impossible. What is statistically impossible? Sir Whitemeat says, hello. Have you noticed that the videos from the rover on Mars that shows an object streaking through the night sky at high speed is not 3i Atlas, it's landing craft or probe, what I think? Well, you know, I just showed that footage, and the reason the footage looks like that, the reason it looks like a long streak is because they had to stack a bunch of images. I'll read the, let's go back to the reports, actually. Let's go back and take a look at that. Okay, here we go. The cylindrical or rod-shaped appearance of interstellar comet 3i Atlas in some images is a photographic artifact caused by the camera's long exposure time, not the object's actual shape. This visual distortion occurred in images captured by NASA's Perseverance rover earlier this month. And I can prove that to you right here, actually. Prove that to you. Here we go. And we'll look at this video one more time, and then we'll jump on over to it. And then I got to go stack a trailer full of wood. I got to go stack up about 6,000 pounds worth of wood. Hello, stacking the wood. 6,000 pounds, like Tetris, because that's how I roll. All right, here we go. Share screen. It's a beautiful day today. Absolutely gorgeous. I hope you're doing amazing. I hope you're doing amazing. So see this? This is the image. And notice how all of the other stars in the sky are long as well. Well, that's because they had to stack up a bunch of images because it was so faint and they wanted to get something. So based upon the artifacts of the camera equipment and not having the right type of camera equipment. See, that's the thing is I've been doing this. I've been doing podcasts with Leak Project for over 10 years. And what I've realized over the 10 years of doing podcasts is there's some great images out there and some great videos that the first time you see it, you're like, holy. And then a few months, you know, you start to realize shortly after, or maybe later down the road, years down the road, you start to realize how easy it is based upon camera artifacts and artificial intelligence and getting certain angles and shadows, etc., that you can make stuff look like, well, I'll give you a prime example. I went to the Grand Canyon because somebody said they found this satellite image of this entrance in the Grand Canyon, and it looked like some Buddhist temple or something that was thousands of years old. And I was like, wow, it really does look like that. So what did I do? I grabbed my friend Shondell. We drive out there. We spend the night in the cold. We get up the next day and we get footage of the exact same rock. And it was just a rock, but it was really cool. But you know, what's funny is people that were sharing that footage that have really big YouTube channels of like this Google satellite image that looks like an entrance. They knew I was going out there. So they were telling everybody that I was going out there. And then as soon as I got the actual footage and showed that it was just a rock, they didn't want me back on. No. Interesting how that works, isn't it? But that's okay. That's okay. You got to love it. You got to love it. That's why you got to watch Leak Project if you want to know what's going on, because whether you like it or not, we're going to share it with you, and we're not going to cater to the masses because that's how we roll. We're being the change we want to see, and I hope you will too. Have a beautiful day, everybody. Thank you for being here. Check us out over on Patreon for exclusive content. I'm uploading a video later today of some exclusive footage of these petroglyphs in 9 Mile Canyon that are just incredible. And I went out there with my friend Angela, and she's really good with astrotheology and decoding some of these petroglyphs, comparing them to the stars. And you should definitely watch this video on our Patreon page. Subscribe to our Rumble page as well. Totally free. It'll take you 90 seconds to subscribe to our Rumble. Helps us out a lot. And they're pretty good at sending notifications. Make sure the bell is turned on here on YouTube for all notifications as well. And thank you so much. Talk to you soon.